Hello everyone, and a warm welcome from Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada. Welcome to my session at the Athabasca University 2020 Graduate Student Research Conference. The theme could not be more appropriate, moving beyond transforming learning in blended and online spaces. My name is Rita Zuba Prokopetz, and I completed my program of studies at Athabasca University in 2019. Thank you for attending my session today based on my study. I conducted an online ethnography with graduate students in a university in Western Canada during 3 iterations of a course that included e-portfolios. My intent was to gain an understanding of self-reflection and peer-to-peer reflection in the development of e-portfolio projects. Today, I plan to demonstrate the what, how, and why of my research study in my attempt to align my work with Athabasca University's 50th anniversary theme, Moving Beyond, Transforming Lives, and the motto, Learning for Life. E-portfolios have emerged as a technological tool that has many purposes. They are deployed to serve specific purposes due to their ability to store and showcase student performance over a period of time. Students can choose a platform to showcase the achievements, instructors can use the product to assess their students, and e-portfolio creators can engage in deep learning and critical reflection. 3 years before my research study, I began my involvement in the e-portfolio community thanks to Dr. Hovan. Since the site of my fieldwork would be an online course, I needed to find out more about ethnography in online spaces. In doing so, I was introduced to virtual ethnography, developed in response to a need to study communities in spaces of the internet. Being open-ended, ethnography is not defined in terms of its boundaries. As an observer, and I observed a few of Dr. Hovan's classes and then Dr. Moises' class as an intern, I had an outsider perspective as I attempted to see commonalities with the insider view of the learners. To obtain a rich description of my experience, I used introspection as my personal process of understanding an e-portfolio subculture and applied it in a broader sense in my meaning-making journey to gain insights into this learning community in internet learning spaces. While observing students, I maintained an ethic view as I adjusted and adapted my report. This was during my research now in a university in Western Canada. As a participant in the community, I aim to be viewed as an insider to reduce student perceptions of my being distant and not a member of the community. As aligned with my research approach, I became the primary research technique. My distinctive research method of participation and observation privileged my body as a site of knowing. As such, my fieldwork necessitated my immersion in the course site for sufficient amounts of time to participate inside the culture and be able to tell the story of a community. I observed 3 iterations of the course, by the way, for my research study. My research journal was a great data source even before I began my study and throughout my data collection, analysis, interpretation, and reporting of my findings. This diagram displays my emergent realizations based on the observable communication among the course participants. I conceptualize what I saw happening at various stages of the process of receiving and giving feedback on the artifacts. Feedback receiving, I noticed, was an emotional endeavor and led to feelings that ranged from doubt and discouragement to delight and confidence, as reflected on the student responses to the questionnaires and interviews. Upon receiving feedback from a peer or instructor, students acknowledged the comments and then engaged in the process of discernment and evaluation prior to accepting or including the information in their revisions. This evaluative form of thinking process with self and peers provide members of any portfolio community a solid foundation on which to stand, I noticed. The student responses to feedback received on the artifacts provide further evidence of the importance of constructive feedback and the value of the information to the receiver. This feedback interaction is an endeavor that involves both intellect and emotions and bridges the cognitive and affective domains. The process of feedback giving was equally laden with emotions for those course participants. Fascinating, actually. This diagram displays what I was able to capture in the form of rich emotions overtly shared by the ePortfolio creators in the initial stages of their projects. This phase of the capstone project contributed to moments of introspection, led to self-assessment, and further facilitated the development of reflection. During the synchronous sessions of the course, the students revealed their difficulty in giving feedback to a peer, an experience that included both self and peer reflection. These peer feedback interactions and the modeling provided by the feedback givers contributed toward a sense of belonging to a community. The electronic portfolio is a technology-mediated learning site where students reflect and document their growth over time. It is a vehicle of culture sharing among students and has the potential to become a subculture of a much vaster space, which is internet culture. In blended and online learning, ePortfolio is positioning itself as a reflective and curated repository, which is then mediated through interaction with instructors and peers. The ePortfolio ecosystem is a resilient and diverse network of systems in the Capstone ePortfolio course and includes communication, critical reflection, and reflective feedback giving and receiving. It is underpinned by construction and co-construction of knowledge and enables community members to demonstrate cognition and affect as they rely on the affordance of their learning environment to complete the ePortfolio projects. The ePortfolio ecosystem, as I view it, includes affect, cognition, and a more ecological form of constructivism. The affective domain, as part of a system internal to the learners, includes the learner's awareness and the understanding of their own thought processes or metacognition, and their interests, attitudes, values, and the development of appreciations and judgment. The affordances of the environment, the systems operating within and internal to the learners, as outlined in ecological constructivism, and the gradual awareness of growth in both learning and attitudes in a community of learners underpin my observations. As an innovative instructional strategy, Capstone ePortfolio projects enable students to learn with the technology while learning about it. These learning experiences, mediated by the ePortfolio technology, are supported by deep learning, critical reflection, and self-awareness. As such, technology is one important aspect that we need to consider when we include ePortfolio projects in a course or program of studies. Other key constructs are pedagogy, peer-to-peer feedback interaction, and critical reflection. As the students develop their projects, they learn to leverage the affordances in their online environment, such as presentations of ePortfolio projects from current and previous course participants, exemplars of projects created by participants in various course iterations where they use different platforms for their capstone projects and told different stories about their learning, ongoing interaction in the discussion forum, course resources on how to create each page of the collection, feedback from the instructor and peers, and synchronous information sessions that provide safe space for student agency. I have personally had the privilege of participating in the course offerings of various scholars at Athabasca, including Dr. Moisey, Dr. Hovan, and Dr. Walsh. What an absolute treat. These sessions provide a place where voices and choices are unveiled during the various phases of the project development. This rich learning environment is part of an ePortfolio subculture created in spaces of the internet and nurtured by the students themselves. My alignment of the ePortfolio pedagogy with the learning theories, this was a beautiful process during my studies, enabled me to view the ePortfolio feedback interactions through very theoretical lenses, which both facilitated and guided my fieldwork. As I continued my observations during my research, it became evident that the underpinnings of my project rested in part with a social constructivist interpretivist paradigm, and more specifically with the concept of ecological constructivism. This contemporary approach to a theory of learning helped me better understand the systems operating within and internal to the students during their learning experiences. This approach to constructivism presented itself as being a more suitable underpinning as it helped me describe what I perceived during the interactions of the students participating in the e-portfolio projects. My table on this slide shows the alignment of the theoretical characteristics of ecological constructivism with the e-portfolios in my study. As we know, Bloom's taxonomy aligned well with the instructional objectives movement and strongly influenced the original attempts to organize programmed instruction in the early 1960s. The mid-1990s, however, saw the advent of the Internet, a time when portfolios in the electronic version emerged as a multi-purpose tool. Since then, we have experienced, or should have noticed, a change in mindset. Fast forward to mid-2010s, and we begin to see the importance of integration of the affective and cognitive domains in the areas of instruction and educational research. Scholars in early 1960s questioned the tenability of the assumption that with the development of cognitive objectives, there would be a corresponding development of appropriate affective behaviors. And there was a suggestion then for further studies in the affective domain, something that I wish to do one of these days. A decade ago, a group of scholars explained that the reason behind viewing the cognitive and affective domains working in tandem was because, and I quote, "knowledge and skills alone do not imply their right use." I find this assertion especially relevant now when online pedagogy includes technology-mediated learning tools such as e-portfolios. As mentioned, there is a gap in literature as it pertains to the affect. The emphasis has been on cognitive research rather than on further exploring the affective domain and the importance of its dimensions, such as emotions, feelings, attitudes, and beliefs, on the effective application of technology. This gap in literature is particularly important as educational institutions now in the 21st century aim to graduate professionals who can internalize a certain value related to what they learned and express that value in a professional action rather than just apply their knowledge about something. In my condensed version of the affective domain of the taxonomy of educational objectives here, I list 5 categories. Their subcategories further outline the type of external or overt behavior associated with the internal or covert feelings of the students. The first domain reminds us as learners we need a sense of awareness, attentiveness, and willingness to receive new information of knowledge. The second domain deals with aspects of our capacity to provide, response, and so on. An e-portfolio experience unveils various aspects of the taxonomy. Really fascinating. In my study, I explored the appropriateness of e-portfolio learning experiences for the development of both cognition and affect. Among the areas that emerged for future research are the impact of study bodies and choice of platforms in e-portfolio projects. An area of interest to me, mentioned before, is domain integration, including an analysis of the affect, and as aligned with the concepts of the community of inquiry. Athabasca University is the best place for that type of research. Other areas are related to self-development and social competence in the portfolio projects for both students and educators, in addition to the application of importance, if any, in open pedagogy as an OER or open educational resource. The community of inquiry, Dr. Marty, would be the one leading that research, and the open resource we have Dr. Ali and others. My study covered the concepts of pedagogy, technology, reflection, and feedback interaction. Additional studies on the impact and application would help inform the e-portfolio community and further contribute to the already robust literature on e-portfolios. My observations and interactions with students show that e-portfolio is now positioned as an innovative way for educators to design learning and facilitate online instruction in blended and online spaces. Here are some of the references on which I based today's presentation. Thank you so much for attending my session at the 2020 Graduate Student Research Conference, which, by the way, is my third and final presentation in my role as a student at Athabasca University. Thank you so much,